We're glad to have you back. Now we'll continue our conversation on security. Right now, the U.S. has offered to help Nigeria, and Nigeria has openly, received this help, and we're seeing some series of attacks happening in some states in the country. Now, how well has this improved our security situation? Has it become better, or has it made it worse? Because we now see more the ripple effects in other states.
Oh. We are yet to see the full result of our collaboration with the US. And I believe the state actors have the capacity, they have the personnel. I think the bombing of Sokoto some couple of weeks ago, how it has the ripple. But in the last couple of days, you saw what happened in Katsina. You heard what happened in Katsina and Niger. As if these guys are gaining momentum. So it's high time we also look inward. Our challenge is local, and it must be addressed. It must be addressed locally.
How so?
How soon? Like I mentioned earlier, the responsibility of protecting life and property of citizens is the responsibility of the state. And I believe the state is taking that step already. In our own space, we are making ourselves available. We are doing our own bits, working from inside out, letting government know we have these capabilities. We can do so much in community protection and security. Relying on external powers, it can go a long way in terms of supply of equipment and whatever to help us, intelligence, equipment, technology. We can that can also go a long way, but we are yet to see, because we expected that after the Christmas Eve or whatever bombing, that probably would have expected some level of
peace.
Yes, but like I mentioned earlier, it's an asymmetric war we are in.
So in the case that private security is being engaged, how do you guard against abuse? Because one issue that we seem to deal with is an overuse or abuse of power. Yeah. Now, how do you guard against that?
Like in every space, training makes the difference. When you say arming the private security, doesn't mean every registered private security company will be armed. The DSS has a lot of role to play there. Training makes the difference between an American Army and a Navy SEAL in the same US. Training makes the difference between a regular Nigerian policeman and a MOPO, we call them, mobile policeman. When the private security operatives are also trained to fill this gap, there's a gap, we must all agree. That will make the difference. There won't be need for abuse. You don't just give weapon to someone who is not matured enough to carry weapons. So there must be requirements. Doesn't mean there will be a kind of open approval to, no. That's not what we are asking for. There must be control.
In the case that, private security is being engaged, yes, what would be your modus operandi? How would you operate? Would you go into the forest, or are we going to see you within the states, or what would be your method of operation?
Security is a sensitive work. We are not state actors. Private security practitioners are in there offering essential services, but they're also there for business. We can't just go into the forest and start combing the forest looking for kidnappers. You know, you must have assigned roles. You must have assigned roles. But I believe, like I mentioned earlier, this is the opportunity time, we will do well, not just in the urban area, in the communities. If you check, recently, all we hear is communities, vulnerable communities. There's a lot we can do in that area, but we cannot operate outside government because we are in this security space. So that's why there's need for collaboration. There's need for realignment. There's need for us to begin to see value in the private security space other than what we have with the state actors.
But doesn't that bring us to the same point? Because if you say private security should be engaged, and then security agencies keep recruiting on a daily basis, and yet we don't see an improvement. They are not properly being funded. They lack basic weapons to confront these challenges. Doesn't that bring us back to the same level and compounding the problem?
We are facing a challenge in the country. Insecurity is on the top burner. The government should also ensure they fund the paramilitary agencies. And those we've been using to also fund the police, also find ways to also give support to the private security companies. There must be some level of adjustment, and you must spend to achieve this. This war is not a cheap war. It's a war, I call it war now, it's a war. You know, that the government must also back up with the political will. Sending hunters, whatever. You find the same people we call hunters and whatever. They are the same group of people we also employ in the private security space. You know, so we can do it. The government can do better. The government can do better. Because when it happens in Niger, we react. When it happens in somewhere in Delta, we react. So we'll be as if we are just running after these characters. If it's given the seriousness that it demands, I believe in 2-3 months, we'll see much difference. We're also entering a period where even the police will be so busy with a lot of things. The elections are coming. It's not the time we'll start doing certain things. The time is now. The time is